before we get into the content tonight, these are crazy times we are living in, brothers. And there are people risking it all to stand up for what they believe in. Now, we at Rider Dynasty are watching and trying our best to be sensitive to lives that are different than our own. Life experiences that differ from our own. We are going to be making some changes to the way we talk about fantasy sports. We're going to talk about managing players, not owning players. We don't want to buy and sell players. We're not going to talk about putting players on the block. Now, these are small changes, but they are not insignificant. What you say affects what you think affects how you act, and how you act affects everybody around you. You know, there's a part of one of my favorite poems. It's called A Psalm of Life by Longfellow. And it says, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brothers, seeing, shall take heart again. So be the footprints that you want others to follow, because you can make somebody's life better. Tonight, I am joined by the OG of Devi, Ryan Bickerstaff. How are you doing, my friend?
You know, JJ, I'm doing great. That intro was beautiful, by the way. I'm feeling good, and I'm ready to get this podcast on the road.
Oh, you're making me feel a little bit nervous, but that's all right. Back again is Kyle Allen. He didn't run away screaming. Kyle, man, how are you enjoying your very first Dynasty Startup Draft?
I'm loving it. I was looking at the format with the 8 hours to make a pick, and I was kind of like, man, this is going to be an absolute drag. But thankfully, everybody's paid attention. The first couple of rounds are going by smoothly. I made my first trade, moved down, the move back movement. I think Michael was talking about that on the last pod. Moved down from 2.3, so I moved to 2.6 and also gained a 4.6 and still got my guy Dak with that pick that I would have taken at 2.3 anyways. So thrilled with how that's going.
Yeah, I was very thrilled when you took him right before I was going to take him. I, too, traded. I traded my first for a second and a fourth, which I was happy to do, and I got Mixon and Andrews in the second, so I'm rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I don't hate either of those lineups.
I know that we are not doing your segment this week, Kyle, which is good because I haven't worked on your intro at all, but you shared a tweet earlier today about AJ Green. Can you share with the riders what you wrote?
Yeah, absolutely. You posted my article on Reddit, which I appreciate. Get it out there to the masses. And somebody presented a question about AJ Green and his injury outlook for this year. So I said AJ's a tough player to project. Obviously, the talent's there. He does have a concerning injury history. 2018, he was dealing with a toe injury that cost him several weeks. And then 2019, he had off-season ankle injury before the season, and he had several setbacks throughout the season, never ended up getting into a game all of 2019, so he missed a whole season. So with that in mind, you know he missed a whole season. He missed part of 2018. He had injuries before that you might be worried about. But you also have to consider he's going to be coming into 20 well-rested. There's no excuse for being tired, as well as fully healthy. In fact, his head coach, Zach Taylor, said that his ankle was fully healthy before the draft even this year. So he's healthy, he's rehabbed, he's ready to come back. The talent's still there. I think that wide receiver 2 numbers are well within his reach. He's got obvious upside above that. He's made the Pro Bowl like 7 times. He racked up huge numbers in his last full season in 2017. Joe Burrow's going to be looking for a reliable target as a rookie. I think AJ Green spells that. As long as he stays on the field, I think he could be a stud, especially in redrafts. Dynasty purposes, I would temper the long-term expectations due to the fact that he has had some health concerns and he's 32 years old. But for redraft, I think he's going to be an absolute steal in the mid-rounds.
Well, that's great news, actually, because I drafted AJ Green in a couple of my Dynasty leagues recently. Late rounds, of course. But that's it'd be great if he came back strong as ever.
Yeah, I think if you can get 3 or 4 good years out of him in Dynasty, like you got well worth your picks. So
absolutely.
Look for him in the late rounds.
All right, so remember you can find us at rideordynasty.com, on Twitter at rideordynasty, And of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, if you leave us a comment, I'll read it on air, especially if you say something mean about Kyle.
Bring it on, baby.
Now, Ryan, you were the MC for tonight's festivities, and as I was busy finishing my final week of school for this year, so I am very excited to be on summer vacation, and I'm very excited for you to take over the pod. So, Ryan, have at it, my friend.
All right, so we have a couple of segments planned for you tonight. The first one is something that actually Kyle named 5 minutes before the pod started, called Believe It or Leave It. And this will just be a quick segment. It's sort of like buy or sell, but with less negative language. Is that fair? Yeah.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Basically, it's whether these guys believe in the player reaching this level or not. So the first one coming up is Gardner Minshew. I believe Gardner Minshew is going to finish as a top 16 quarterback this season. So what about you guys? He was a 6th-round pick last year. He ended up as the quarterback 20. He played in only 14 games, and he finished with a touchdown to interception ratio of 21-6.
All right, so you're saying he'll finish in the top half of QBs?
Yes.
Leave it.
Oh, you're leaving it.
Leave it. I don't believe in him. He got benched for Nick Foles last year. He might get a little bit better. I'm happy picking him up as my third QB in a super flex, but other than that, I don't think he's going to move into the top half of QBs. Kyle?
For QB 16, that puts him like the upper half of QB 2s. I believe it. I think he can do it. Think about last year. He only played 14 games, like you said. The argument is that he got benched for Nick Foles, but you also have to consider that management was paying Nick Foles a lot of money, so they probably felt like they needed to get him on the field. In those 14 games, he had 3.5-ish touchdowns to every one interception he threw. I mean, 6 interceptions isn't great in 14 games, but he's taking care of the ball. Still got 21 touchdowns, averaged nearly 300 yards a game, like right at 275. I think he could push for QB 16, absolutely. The receivers last year, DJ Chark was a shining point, but he was a rookie, or Minshew was a rookie, rather. Didn't have great weapons around him. I think the addition of Laviska Shenault will boost his numbers some in the second year, getting a full year at the helm, starting the season as the starter. I think he can push for QB 16. Absolutely believe it.
All right, I think Kyle wins this round, JJ.
What do you mean? There's no winners.
It's always
You're
a
asking us
competition.
our opinions.
All right.
And of course, my
I've
opinion
had a
was
few
right.
beers, man.
All right, go ahead. Next.
It's dub season.
All right. All right, so next we have Darius Geis. He missed his entire rookie season with a torn ACL. Then he only played in 5 seasons last year, again because of injuries. But he did look promising when he was on the field. The upside is tremendous, but he just needs to stay healthy. I think Geis can finish as an RB2 this season. What do you guys think?
JJ, you want to go first? Or you want me to take this one first? We'll
No,
flip.
I'll take it first. I don't
Okay.
care.
We can flip flop. We're going to go snake or linear.
Linear. We're going to go rookie draft. So
Go for it.
He's going to finish as an RB2. I say believe it. I think he is finally healthy. I think we're going to see at least 13 plus games out of him. In those 13 games, he's going to be the primary ball carrier on at least first and second downs. They have a couple guys there now to pick up third down slack. But I say he finishes at the bottom of the second tier of running backs. So probably right around running back 21, 22. So I say believe it, Kyle.
I like it. I see that you read my injury column. It's like you edited it or something. Like you were well versed in what I had to say. All jokes aside, Darius Geis is a RB2. I absolutely believe it too. Like we said, he did tear an ACL and then came back, played in a few games, had a meniscus tear, he didn't come back from the ACL. He had the meniscus injury, missed games there. Then he came back and sprained his MCL, which didn't require surgery. So he had 4 weeks plus the entire offseason to get healthy again. He'll be coming in healthy. Kind of like what I was talking about with AJ Green. He's coming into the season fully healthy. He'll be ready to go. I think if he stays on the field, there's nothing stopping him from taking over the starting role there in Washington and pushing for RB2 numbers easily. Believe it.
Nice. Well, it looks like all three of us are on board with the Darius Geis train right now.
Choo choo.
The third guy I have here is John Brown. He finished as the wide receiver 20 in PPR last year. JJ, I know this is one of your guys.
Mm-hmm.
He only played in 15 games, but and he was Josh Allen's go-to target. However, Buffalo added Stephon Diggs to the receivers group this year. So I think John Brown is going to fall out of wide receiver 2 territory.
I will go first again because I am old. And I have to, go to bed early. So I believe it. He is going to fall out. He's not going to finish as a wide receiver 2. He will finish somewhere as a wide receiver 3, probably around 31. Write that down. Wide receiver 31. I also think Dawson Knox might eat into some of those targets. Kyle?
Don't start talking about Dawson Knox and people are going to draft him and I can't get him. Hush hush on that guy. No, John Brown is a wide receiver 2. Absolutely not. Leave it. I've been burned by John Brown. He could burn me on the field, but burned in fantasy more than once. Obviously, the upside's there is tremendous. Very speedy receiver, but with the addition of Stephon Diggs, as you mentioned, Dawson Knox, hopefully having his breakout year this year, I think Josh Allen's going to be looking to other places. He's got a lot of upside with the big playability, but I just don't think that he's going to be able to sustain that wide receiver 2 pace. I like your wide receiver 31 projection. I have no idea where to project him because he's such a high-low guy. I don't feel like he's one of the kind of consistent wide receiver 1 type of players.
All right. So for our last guy, we have Jared Cook. He was last year's tight end 7, but he's aging. He's catching passes from an aging quarterback, and he plays in an offense that just added a legitimate wide receiver 2 in Emmanuel Sanders. I think Jared Cook is going to fall out of tight end 1 territory and fall into the tight end 18 range.
Woo.
All right. Kyle, you go first.
So, Jared Cook, I think he'll still maintain. So I say the fall, I'm going to leave it. I don't know if he'll still be a tight end 1, but I think he'll be well above the tight end 18. He's coming off of a career year for him, back-to-back Pro Bowls, not to mention. Last year, he had his highest ever yards per touch on a season. He averaged the most yards per reception, which kind of comes along with that. And he had a career high in touchdowns. As we've seen with Jimmy Graham in New Orleans, and now with Jared Cook, Drew Brees likes a tight end. I don't think Drew Brees' age comes into this as much as Jared Cook's age comes into this, but I think he'll have another good season, push for tight end 1 numbers. I think he's absolutely within the top 12.
All right, so you're leaving it.
Yeah.
I am shocked at 2 things. One, that the research that Ryan put in to determine that Jared Cook is aging. I like that.
Hashtag analysis.
And then, of course, the math coming out from Kyle, where he said he will not be a wide receiver 1, but he's going to finish well above wide receiver 18. And then you said that again, and that he would definitely finish in the top 12.
So
wide receiver.
Let me go back real quick. My redraft league that I've been playing in for several years is a 10-team league. So in my head, I'm always thinking top 10 is wide receiver,
Gotcha.
running back, tight end 1. And so I'm having to regroup that it's 12.
It's a lot harder dealing with 12s.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the depth and actually having to think about stuff and not just having a team full of studs.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I'm going to agree with Ryan. I don't see Jared Cook maintaining it. Now, I don't think it's that hard to be a tight end 10 or a tight end 14. I mean, I think you have to average 10 points. Over the past 10 years, if you average 10 points, you can be a wide receiver 1. So, I think he is going to fall out of wide receiver 1 territory, but he will be in the wide receiver 2 territory in the upper half. He'll be number 14. I'll write it down. And it will be because of injury. He will miss some time this year because of injuries. Because I've looked it up. He's aging.
He is. You also mentioned
Ryan?
Emmanuel Sanders, but Emmanuel Sanders is older than Jared Cook.
And Jared Cook is also a tight end, JJ, not a wide receiver.
Yeah, I know. I've said wide receiver every time. It's okay.
He can do it all.
Really? Is there a difference? He's not blocking that much.
He's just
goes
a
out for
thick wide
passes.
receiver.
He's just an oversized wide receiver.
There you go.
Shout out Gronk.
He did run a 4.49.
I have never run a 4.49, so
I haven't either.
I did Madden once.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a highlight of my life.
all right. Why don't we move on?
All right, so we're going to move on to the main segment then, which is our over-under segment. I have prepared 8 players for this, 2 from each position group, and we're just going to dive right into it. Kicking it off with Lamar Jackson. Lamar averaged 28.11 points per game in 2019. Now, in a historic season, I might add. Now, in 2018, Patrick Mahomes averaged 26.07 points per game in another historic season. He regressed to 20.86 points per game, which is a difference of 5.21 points. So, 28.11 minus 5.21 equals 22.9. So, Lamar Jackson, what do you guys think? Over under 22.9 points per game.
Holy shit, that was very specific.
Wow, yeah, that was not the stat I expected you to ask us an over-under on.
Over under for Lamar Jackson scoring 22 points per game.
Ooh.
22.9.
22.9, so 23. 23 points per game in a 6-point passing touchdown.
Yes.
Okay. I will say he will be under this year. I don't think he can maintain that pace. It would take a Herculean effort. They've added more weapons. They're going to want him to run less. So, although his passing numbers are going to go up, his running numbers are going to go down. So, I think he is going to drop. So, I will say he is below that 22.9.
Kyle?
So JJ thinks he's going to regress more than Patrick Mahomes did from his best season. So I'm going to say, yes, there will be some regression, but I still think that he will be above the 22.9. As JJ highlighted, they've added some weapons there. I like the addition of J.K. Dobbins in that backfield to help out the aging Mark Ingram. I think he can maintain that. I do think there is some regression to be had. The stats that he put up last year, as you said, JJ, historic. Absolutely monster season. I don't think he'll have the same high level, and there will be some regression, but I don't think he will drop that far. Especially with a 6-point passing touchdown scoring, like you said, his passing numbers will come down, but I think the touchdowns will still be there passing, and he can still do it with his legs.
I like it. Kyle, I'm with you on this. I think he's going to be over the 22.9 point per game threshold. So we're going to move along then to another AFC North quarterback, and Joe Burrow. Baker Mayfield owns the record for rookie touchdown passes with 27. He did this in 14 games. Now Burrow is slated to be the starter for all 16. So given that, do you think Joe Burrow breaks Baker Mayfield's rookie touchdown record of 27? Over, under?
Is that 27 passing or total?
Passing.
I think he'll go over. I love the wide receiver group there. As we talked about, AJ Green, he's going to look to him a lot this year. As you said, he's going to start 16 games. I don't think Ryan Finley really gives him much competition for the starting job there. Joe Mixon's a great pass-catching running back. Tyler Boyd was fantastic last year. Auden Tate showed up last year, and the addition of T. Higgins is a gimme. I mean, that's 3 with a 4th fantastic receivers. CJ Uzomah is a big tight end that he can target in the back of the end zone. I think he can absolutely break that 27 touchdown record.
I think can and will are 2 different things. I think he is capable of breaking it. I don't think he will. I think they are going to run the ball a lot with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is in a contract year, I believe. So they are going to put the mileage on him. Yeah, he has a lot of great weapons. I think the future is his. I just don't see him throwing the ball that much. I hope I'm wrong because I did draft him. So I hope he puts up 50 touchdowns. Although I won't claim 40 like some of us did about Baker. But I will say he will finish under that number of touchdowns.
You know, we spoke of aging. He is 2 years older than Sam Darnold.
That's
Amen.
crazy.
That's weird.
It is.
This league.
Yeah, I'm kind of with JJ on this one, actually. I don't think Burrow is going to throw that many touchdowns. I hope he does because I drafted him also, but I'm just not seeing it.
No, you have to have realistic expectations for your rookies. If he comes out of the year throwing 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, that'd be a great year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a great year.
All right, real quick, because I know none of these wide receivers are on the list for our wide receivers to talk about. Which of his receivers has the most touchdowns this year?
Boyd.
Whichever one stays healthy the longest.
I'm saying Tyler Boyd.
Boyd.
I would say, I say Boyd.
Yeah. I like that. I think if Green plays the full 16, it'll be him, but I like Boyd's chances more to stay healthy. I would throw Mixon in there as well. I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I know they have Gio Bernard, but Mixon can do it. It could be him. You never know.
Never know.
Never know.
All right, sorry.
All right, we're gonna-
Hit us with those RBs, Ryan.
You're good. We're going to move along to the running backs. Our first running back is Kenyon Drake. In 8 games with Arizona, Drake had 814 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns, which was a pace of 1,628 yards and 16 TDs. Among these stats are 56 receptions he was on pace for, which would be a total of 314.8 PPR points. So I'm going to put the over-under at 300 PPR points for Kenyon Drake.
Wow, this is the easiest one of the night. It will be under that number.
Absolutely.
I do not expect great things out of Arizona this year. I think, not sure if we talked about it at the last pod or if I was drinking somewhere with somebody discussing this, but they added a lot of offense and no offensive line, and their defense is horrible. So, yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to run when there's no offensive line. Kyler's going to get murdered back there. They have to fix the offensive line. So, yeah, that's an easy under for me.
I like where your head's at on this one. I agree. I think Drake won't be anywhere near, if you extrapolate his numbers from Arizona out across the full season, I don't think he'll touch that. You highlighted that he had 8 touchdowns. 4 of those were against the Browns. If he gets to play the Browns every week, he'll be a star. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he'll put up the same numbers. Will he be a good PPR running back? Absolutely. I don't think he'll be the best. I don't think he'll put up over 300.
You know, I think I'm going to take the over on this just because you guys took the under. And Drake's an Alabama guy. Roll Tide. All right, moving
Can't
along.
argue with that logic.
We have Miles Sanders. This is a simple one. Miles Sanders was the RB15 in PPR last year. He had 1,327 yards from scrimmage, 6 touchdowns, and 50 receptions for a total of 218.7 fantasy points. And he only started in 11 games. So I have Miles Sanders finishing as an RB10 or better in 2020. Over under an RB10 finish for Miles Sanders.
Kyle?
Over under 10? That's a tough number. Can I push and say right at 10?
Absolutely.
So based on you both giving me different answers, yes, I'm going to say push at 10. Not over, not under. Now, I mean, does he have the ceiling to go over 10? Absolutely. Do I think he will? No, I think he'll be 10 or below. I guess if I had to pick one, I'll take the under. I think he'll definitely do a lot better than his RV15 last year. He'll start every game. Boston Scott is there, but I don't expect him to cut into his target share or his carries all that much. Sanders is somebody who can do it all. There's a lot of people that are high on him. I was talking to JJ before the podcast, and I said, I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that he was a rookie last year. I think it's just because everybody is so high on Miles Sanders that I'm trying to say, just ignore the fact, like, I'm not going to get him in a draft because everybody loves him. So I don't know if that's sound logic or if that's just my own opinions coming through, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I look at the situation in Philly. I know that I'm surrounded by Eagles fans here, and Doug Peterson likes a running back by committee. It's what he likes. They kind of went away with it towards the end of the year, but that's because I think their entire roster died.
Everybody was hurt.
No, there were nobody healthy was on that roster. It was him and Boston Scott, so somebody had to touch the ball. And they didn't have any wide receivers. So I think last year was his peak year, at least in like the foreseeable future. I think he's capable of doing more, but he's not going to get the opportunity. I say under. Yeah, he'll finish well below running back 10.
Just for
I won't
giggles.
say well below. He'll finish below running back 10.
Just for giggles, I looked at our ranks. You and I both have him for Dynasty. This isn't for 2020, but we both have him at 9. So curious to see how that carries into just this year, or if we're just looking at long term. I think he's RB9.
Well, because you guys took the under, I'm going to take the over, and I think he's going to finish at exactly RB9 in 2020.
Roll Tide.
Something like that.
Wait, no. We are
The Titans?
Penn State. That's the Penn State cheer. He went to Penn State.
Eric went to Penn State.
Eric did go to Penn State. He's
Over
huge
under
Miles
RB
Sanders fan.
700 for Eric this year.
Shout out to Eric.
Shout out to Eric.
So we're going to move it along to wide receivers. The first one I have here is Juju Smith-Schuster. What to say about Juju? In 2018, he had 111 receptions for 1,426 yards and 7 touchdowns. In 2019, he had 42 receptions for 552 yards and 3 touchdowns, which looks eerily similar to Noah Fant's receiving line from last year as a rookie tight end in Denver with a rookie quarterback and a bad quarterback in Joe Flacco. Anyway,
Elite Joe Flacco.
but I
Absolutely
digress. So what I did for Juju here is I simply took his 2018 stat line and I subtracted 2019 stat line from it. So over under this stat line for Juju, 69 receptions, 874 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Okay,
That's
on.
incredible.
Hold on. Say the stat line again.
For Juju Smith-Schuster in 2020, 69 receptions for 874 yards and 4 touchdowns. Is he going to go over or under that?
Go ahead, JJ. I need to collect myself.
He's going to go over. Those are really low numbers for the wide receiver 1 on a professional football team. The Steelers like to throw the ball. It's an over.
The roundabout way that you came up with those numbers just really caught me off guard. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I agree with JJ. He's going to be over that. He had Duck Hodges and Denthead, I can't think of his, Mason Rudolph, throwing to him last year. He had Roethlisberger for a whole game and a half. I think Healthy Ben coming back for a full season will absolutely boost his numbers. They don't have the security blanket of a competent Antonio Brown out there to leave him in single coverage all the time, but I think he should absolutely surpass those numbers.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys on that one. I just thought that would be good for a laugh.
Oh,
And
you did it.
So we're going to move it along then to...
But the fact that you
Michael-
could subtract one season from another and still come up with like a decent season of stats speaks volumes to the difference between having a good quarterback behind you and having really bad quarterbacks throwing to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly shocked I was able to do that. And, and have him, to still put Juju at a decent season.
Yeah.
So we're going to move it along then to Michael Thomas. So Marvin Harrison followed his 143 reception season in 2002 with 94 receptions in 2003, which is a difference of 49. Thomas had 149 receptions in 2019, so if you subtract 49, that leaves us at 100. So are we going over or under 100 receptions from Michael Thomas in 2020?
Pound the over. Absolutely.
Pound the over.
Yep. He's not going anywhere. Drew Brees trusts him. Yes, Emmanuel Sanders is there now, but he doesn't have the rapport with Drew Brees that Michael Thomas does. I mean, Michael Thomas has been his number one guy forever. He's set all kinds of receiving records for like the first however many seasons of a career. I think he absolutely is reliably over 100 this year.
All right, JJ?
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think there's any chance in hell that he goes underneath 100. I mean, the only year he hasn't caught 100 passes was his rookie year where he caught 92. Yeah, he's easily over 100 this year. I'll take the over.
All right, I'm going to take the under. Just to be contrarian. All right, we're going to move it along then to tight ends. The first one I have for you guys is Rob Gronkowski. In Gronk's final season in New England, he played 13 games with a stat line of 47 catches, 682 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which was good for a tight end 11 finish. So in 2020, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, does Gronk play 13 games over or under?
I'll take this. I think he plays under. Kyle and I actually were talking about this before the pod began. I think he put on a decent amount of weight. He said he was feeling great, so he decided to come back. But that was because he lost weight. Now he put it all back on. He's going to start taking a beating. And I don't think he stays healthy. I take the under. Kyle?
Yeah, I like that take. I like to look at it from a medical perspective. I think the last time he was in the league, he was measured at 6'6" and nearly 270 pounds. I doubt he comes into this year at 270 pounds. He might be pushing back towards it because he lost a ton of weight whenever he got out of the league, which makes sense because you're not working out the same. But 13 games, he only surpassed 13 games in 5 of his 8 seasons, so I think under is probably a safe bet here. I don't know that he'll necessarily have like a season-ending injury, but I think the dents and dings throughout the season will probably keep him out for a couple. Under 13.
All right, I'm going to have to go with you guys on this one. I have him playing 12 games in 2020. So for our last player, we have Noah Fant. Now, Fant and Mark Andrews had nearly identical rookie seasons. Fant had a stat line of 40 receptions for 562 yards and 3 touchdowns. Andrews had a stat line of 34 receptions for 552 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, Andrews broke out to the tune of 64 receptions for 852 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2019. And he put up 207.2 fantasy points, which was good for a tight end 5 finish. So I put the over-under for Fant at 200 fantasy points in 2020.
What was Andrews last year? Run that by me one more time.
207.2 fantasy points.
So right around that. That's difficult. I think this year, I think he'll be under. I've seen a lot of comparisons to George Kittle for Noah Fant. His rookie season was very similar to George Kittle's, and then George Kittle came and lit up the league in his second season, just like Mark Andrews did. I actually haven't seen the comparison of those two, so it's kind of interesting to see a second take. That kind of makes me think higher of Mark Andrews than I did before. But I think he'll be under 200. I like him as a tight end this year. I think he'll do well. I think he's got a gorgeous future. As long as he stays on the field. I mean, he appeared in all 16 games last year. I think he's got the world ahead of him. But I think with the target share going around him and Drew Lock, although I do love Drew Lock, I don't think he's going to be able to produce 200 points for Noah Fant this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. I don't think he makes the same leap. I think when you look at who the wide receivers were around Mark Andrews last year, compare it to who the wide receivers are around Noah Fant this year. I mean, you had Hollywood Brown, who was injured. You had Willie Snead last year. You had, who else? Miles Boykin didn't really play. Like, we're not talking about a murderer's row. But you go out to Denver this year for Fant's second year, and you see Hamler, you see Judy, you see
Sutton.
And plus they brought in Albert O. So
Drew Lock's teammate from college.
Little position battle at tight end.
I mean, I don't think it's a battle. I think Fant's easily going to be the receiving tight end. But in the clutch, who knows where he's going to go? I don't even know if Fant's going to get more than the 66 targets he received last year. So to think he's going to go that much above, I don't see it happening. I actually like Fant. So I'm not saying anything bad about Fant for Denver fans. I know how sensitive you can be. But I like Fant, but I don't see him coming even close to that 200 points.
Well, since I'm a little drunk and I'm feeling contrarian to you guys tonight, I'm going to take the over. I think Fant's going to break out similar to Mark Andrews, and I think he's going to have a great season.
Something I failed to mention, and I apologize to go back. I failed to mention Mark Andrews had Lamar Jackson with his absolute maniacal destroy the league season throwing to him last year. And I mean, I'd be thrilled if Drew Lock did that this year, but I don't think he's the same talent that Lamar Jackson is. I don't think Noah Fant will get that out of him.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Neither passing nor running. I don't think Lock is his equal. But who knows? Crazier things have happened. But all right, that was a great 2 segments. You really made me think a lot. Going back to the Lamar Jackson one, I'm going with the over. I didn't quite understand what you were saying with the math, so I'm taking the over on that one. Everything else, I stand by my story. Now, before we go, it's time for tags. So, guys, give them your final thoughts, your Twitter handles. Go ahead, Ryan.
You can find me at the Debbie Dirtbag.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think this is a great podcast. It's JJ. I appreciate how difficult it is to be a host. So thank you for what you do. It is
My
truly
pleasure,
astounding.
Brother. My pleasure.
Big round of applause to Ryan for putting this together, for being our MC/host today. Fantastic job on that. If you would like to give me the honor of following me, Twitter, Instagram, you can find me at KAllen, ALLEN_4.
All right, Kyle, you can follow me at JJ Wenner. I'm so glad to be here tonight. I'm so glad to be on summer vacation, ready to dive in, work on my projections, finish up some startups. And just get ready to enjoy the life. All right, brothers and sisters, I love you all. From all of us here at Rider Dynasty to all of you out there, be safe, be kind, and try to just, be your best selves, man. Boat drinks, my friends.